Welcome to American Intelligence Media. My name is Thomas Paine, and I'm with Michael McKibben today talking about SES. And Lord heavens, you've come up for the light of day from the deep minds of the SES. You give us reports. It sounds so horrible. We just want you to go ahead and just tell us, really, now that you have a perspective, you got all the plum books all lined up. You got a bunch of them searchable. What we want to hear, you step back. What is it you're looking at, Michael McKibben?
Let me start out this way. Today in our church is Great and Holy Thursday. Some people call it Maundy Thursday. It was the day Christ was betrayed by Judas Iscariot. And I guess my big picture summary of looking at some 100,000 names since 1978 is America has been betrayed by the SES. Just like Jesus was betrayed by Judas. These people have so abused the U.S. Constitution that words don't properly describe the level of this moral depravity that would allow this to go on for so many years and to suck in so many people like a black hole into its sphere so that they can't get out and lock them up in their finances and in their family finances to the point where they become co-collaborators. We have a massive job in front of us to fix the fabric of our society, which has been so infected by this hidden agenda that none of us knew about. I still haven't found anybody that knew anything about the SES before I asked them.
And they're traitors, just like Judas. Judas was in charge of the money. These people are all about the money. These people come in, they have circumvented basically the normal civil service merit system. They start off with the highest pay that anybody in the merit system or in the civil service merit system can actually get. They start off with the highest and then go into secret categories of payment. They get awards of huge amounts of money. We don't even know if they ever stop being paid. No one can get to the information. You can't count them. You can't search it. You can't do any research on this. What you've had to do to get this information, the subterfuge, the tripwires, the sabotage, the unbelievable obfuscation, the absolute black ops budget right in front of our face, so that every single presidential appointee is then controlled by bureaucratic status quo senior executive service members. This is disgusting. And the more that every single piece of jewels that you brought out of the mines that you'd send us would make me more upset, because it looks like the president can't fire them. The president doesn't even have to know they're appointed. It looks like they can go on being paid for years and their name doesn't even appear in the book. None of the statistics agree. Besides the fact that they're trying to hide it, or that they'll send you to go get it on Google so that it actually gets your name and retracts back to you, and then they find out that, you're part of the people who... This was the traitors who tried to kill the Republic.
These plum books, on the surface, they look like properly official documents. But now we've had our people spend almost about 100 hours digging into these documents, and these are like wolves in sheep's clothing. So once you get into the wording, you see the numbers don't add up. Their numbers are massively don't add up. And when you start actually counting the number of people that they describe as SES members, and then look, that's in the front of the book, and then in the back of the book you see another number that is sometimes 170% different than the number they put into the tables, then you realize the whole document is a fraud. And since have had experience at working with developing evidence for various court cases that I've been involved in, one of the things you learn about evidence, when evidence is ambiguous, the assumption is that somebody's lying somewhere and that this is fraud on the court. In this case, I would call this fraud on the American people. And this is hard evidence. This is what's called judicially recognizable evidence, because these are documents that come right from the government printing office with their watermark on them that says you could take these right to court. But the numbers are so off that they were clearly not even done by an accountant or anybody who knew numbers, because they would be embarrassed that even their fake numbers didn't add up. In this case, they're way off.
Well, let me give a little general view for those people who might not know who the SES is. And by the way, when we threw down the gauntlet not long ago, there was a tsunami hitting the alternative news sites, because if you couldn't look into SES and find out that what we were saying is true, then you were basically kind of continuing to keep the blinders on people's eyes to not point out the shadow government is right in front of us. And so we're trying to wake people up, and I'm sorry that it hurts. Now, but we're after truth, and we're not after clicks, and you can't donate to us. We don't need any donations. That's not what it's about. We do this for truth. So what we're trying to do here is frame this for you. SES, when the corruptocrats, the already corrupted, get a job in the government, it's because one of the corrupt people inside probably told them how to get that job through the SES, and they go in, and from the beginning, even a Jeff Sessions, way back in 84, he became SES. So sometimes, look, Barack Obama is going to appear on this list. You're going to think we're crazy. Hillary Clinton appears on this. Members of Hillary Clinton's foundation are paid through the SES. The United States government taxpayers pay for members on Hillary Clinton's foundation because it's connected to the presidential library, which is the same scam that Obama's using. $2 billion from the Silicon Valley warlord tech kings given to him, and it's rolled into his fake accounts and the Michelle Obama Foundation, all this stuff. That was learned from the Clintons, okay? So when we say that these people appear here, you're going to think we're crazy. But you can search it. You can find it in the Plum Book. And one of our friends on the internet, really wild guy, used your service, which was a searchable system that you created, which took huge amount of effort and a huge amount of people working on this, so that anybody can plug in a name and see if they're SES and win and get the evidence. As you say, the Plum Books are evidence in court. You don't need anything else more than that. You can't contest a government document, especially if it's already been put out in the public and hasn't been corrected. So anyway, the point is that the evidence is there. So when I say this stuff, we don't talk off the top of our head, but one of our fans used that system and made a list of all of his enemies, and every one of his enemies was SES. Let me just list 35 of the 10,000 to let you see what we're talking about. The following members are one of many categories. You can be many categories with SES. So senior executive service can also be executive service. It can be a senior intelligence service. It used to be the senior cryptological service, and we'll talk about that perhaps in a minute. It has many, many names, and all the government agencies fought to get this in because it basically meant unlimited money for them when they wanted to get out of the government and get an SES job, which then no one knew how much they made. We might know a little bit about their base pay. Any number you see on here, that's their base pay. Minimum, without any awards, without any tenure, without anything. So what we're telling you is almost everything that Michael has found and all these people have found is not the complete truth, and there's more, and it's worse, and we just have to frame this for you. These people have waivers on whether they even are citizens of the United States. They have waivers on whether they have to have background checks. That's how Imran Awan probably got into the Congress without a single background check. The man who's now accused of the worst espionage in U.S. history by the Office of Inspector General for the Congress, already found him crime. These are crimes. When these are brought forward now, someone needs to step forward and charge him. Well, Jeff Sessions is asleep on the job again. The FBI is asleep on the job again. Christopher Wray, nothing happens. Why? He's SES. SES are kind of like a paramilitary group. They started as an accident by adding pay scales above the highest grade that they offered. And when they saw that worked, Then they reorganized the entire civil service in 1978, and by 79 or so, the SES became a separate wing of the government that can't be touched, that has waivers for everything, that has unbelievable payroll benefits that no one could even describe. We could just read you all this stuff, but just look at what's been posted. And let me now read you my today's 35 pick of SES members to show you who we're dealing with. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Robert Mueller, Bernie Sanders, Jeff Sessions, Michael Horowitz, Rod Rosenstein, John Kerry, Dianne Feinstein, Rahm Emanuel, Loretta Lynch, James Clapper, John McCain, Preet Bharara, Sheryl Sandberg, Representative Pat Tiberi of Ohio, Marissa McAuliffe, of course, Terry McAuliffe, Dianne, I already said Dianne Feinstein. She's so evil she could be on there twice, but Sidney Blumenthal, John Podesta, Eric Holder, Christopher Wray, Victoria Newland, Jennifer Palmera, Susan Rice, Cheryl Mills, James Baker, Bill Priestap, Huma Abedin, Anthony Weiner, Bruce and Nellie Orr, James Rubicki, and the list goes on and on. That's right. Anyone that they're accusing of anything wrong right now, guess what? They're probably SES members. And guess who probably runs them? No one really knows. No document states. But there are 500 or 498 Department of Justice lawyers, all SES members, who are the top review board that controls everyone's pay and their awards and all the secrecy and all that stuff. And hey, well, they are current and they work for Jeff Sessions, so we can only assume that Jeff Sessions is certainly there. So if he's got a boss higher than him for SES, we're still looking for him. But yes, unfortunately, Jeff Sessions would be the boss of the SES at this moment. And folks, that's the same criminals we're talking about for patent theft, that we're talking about for most of the DC crimes. So if they're criminals, you can almost bet a nickel. Put them in the SES search box and see if they are, and you probably won't lose that nickel because they probably are criminal. Andrew Marshall, I don't know if I mentioned him. These people are so
Let me add one that came out of one of the older plum books. Can't remember which one. Thomas J. Watson Jr.
Mm-hmm. IBM.
He was ambassador to the Soviet Union from 1979 to 1981. That was right during actually, I was taking over gospel music groups right then, which is interesting. But interesting to me anyway. But he was SES, and he was also the chairman of IBM. Isn't that an interesting coincidence that IBM is so central to everything we're talking about here, and has been?
We are probably going to find out, once we have the time, that we already know mainstream media members who are SES, still on the payroll.
I've got a couple, George Stephanopoulos and Joe Scarborough.
Can you believe it? Joe Scarborough, Trump's number one enemy on television, being paid by taxpayers to attack their duly elected president. And these people don't go to jail? Why? Because there's a bureaucratic status quo system that also controls the courts, and they control all these positions, and especially appointments, and courts are very much appointments, and they control, there's control mechanisms here. You have people in the Congress who are paid more than the person in the chair next to them. They're not civil servants, they're SES. Remember, the civil service was separated out from the SES, and because they have the keystone, and they say they're the part that keeps it all together, what they really are is, look inside that keystone, you'll see a column. They are the fifth column. They are enemy. They are the Trojan horse. They are the fifth column, the enemy within. That's what we've done. And what these people are, that you cannot tell me any of them don't know this. They have to give up of their civil service status in many cases to even take the next job, which would be a senior executive service position, and they enter into a corps, a group. This is a paramilitary group, and what do they go through? They go through an indoctrination, much like the CIA indoctrination, and basically they teach them corporatism is right, elitism is right, and this is an elite pay scale, by the way, inside of our government. And that shows that they're corporatists. And so when they get hired by the government to begin with, they say, well, we're better than those people. I have to be paid more. Not only that, I have to have a private agreement. And even the president himself, after he appoints me, cannot fire me. Isn't that grand? These are their rules. These are some of their rules. So I don't know, Michael. It drives me crazy every time I hear another one of their crazy rules which say that nobody knows what they're doing. No one has the scope. We can't figure this out after all this time.
I think one of the things that people have a hard time with is the idea that the president can't fire them. And so I'd like to read for everyone a paragraph that discusses that in the documents. And this phrase is in all or nearly all of the plum books. It says, by law, the appointment to or removal from any SES position in an independent regulatory commission shall not be subject, directly or indirectly, to review or approval by an officer or entity within the executive office of the president. So the real operative phrase there is in independent regulatory commission. Well, earlier in the document, earlier in the same section, this is in appendix number 2 in most of the plum books, it talks about the need for an impartial group of people to be above the fray of politics. That's the implication. The other interesting thing from a legal perspective is there is no definition of independent regulatory commissions, so these are the ones that can't be fired. Since there's no definition, it's whatever the interpreter wants it to be. So it could be applied narrowly to certain commissions, but it could also be applied broadly to their reference that all agencies should be independent, or all SES people should be independent, and that by nature, since it's all agencies of the government, it's all regulatory. So independent regulatory commission could mean all SES employees at all levels of their organization do not report to the president. So whether you interpret this narrowly or broadly, there's a whole swath of people that they're saying can't be fired directly or indirectly by the president of the United States.
And from what we know, about 8 of the supposed 9,000, or roughly, were Obama appointees, so that he started really changing this up, and he wrote some executive orders that laid out a plan for the senior executive service and all the many different names that it has, got bigger and bigger, and became more confused that the people who are the leaders of these agencies have to change jobs very frequently, so that none of them are actually qualified for what it is that they are supposed to be supervising. And they have the power to fire and hire. They have the power to stop a presidential appointee like a Rex Tillerson from getting anything done at the State Department, because why? In between Rex and the rest of the State Department are many, many SES members. And their job is to keep things status quo. And since Obama appointed them, you can only imagine that the horrifying partisanship we already see in the DOJ, FBI, CIA, NSA, excuse me, not NSA, that partisanship, well, of course it is worse in the SES because they were appointed by Obama. He got rid of supposedly 4,000 during his time, replaced all of them, amped it all up, and wrote an executive order that went right into Trump's time, basically making sure that by 2018, the SES had an absolute stranglehold on the entire government.
Well, wait a second, Douglas. The document says that they're all impartial body and are above the politics.
I forgot that. Lawyers are so honest. I forgot those 500 lawyers can be trusted with my dog. They can't.
Let me read you the key phrase that really turned this organization into some sort of fifth SS column. In between the 1988 Plum Book and the 1992 Plum Book, they changed the classifications of the types of positions, and SES had been one of the types of positions which they completely took away and made SES a pay grade, one of 8 pay grades, which is crazy. because
that's the ultimate sneaky thing they've done here. They took
wait,
what
I'm
they
not done yet.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not done yet. Because in the process, they added a sentence into the document on page 8 of the first part of the document. Let me read you what it says, because this is the key to them completely scrambling the plum books so that you cannot tell who's SES and who's not from looking at the plum books. It says, note that several categories of positions can be filled by more than one type of appointment. E.g., SES positions listed in this publication may be filled by using career, non-career, limited emergency, or limited term appointment authorities. Now, doesn't that sound nice?
And
but when
we don't even know what those things mean.
When we break this document, that sentence down, there are 3 completely open-ended requirements there. Note that several categories of positions, it doesn't say how many, can be filled by more than one type of appointment. Again, how many, we don't know. SES positions listed in this publication may be filled by all these different categories. So what they're basically saying, in our interpretation, is that anybody in any category in this book can be designated SES without disclosing it.
Correct.
Because there may or may not be the SES pay category, which is only one of 8 categories. So what they did is, very cleverly, they didn't remove SES designations from all the people in the list. They made it a pay grade, not a type of appointment, so that some people's names would have SES next to it. Actually, they changed it to ES, and then Gen, so that even further obscured it. So it took us 100 hours to figure this out. So I got to believe we're the only ones that have done it. But maybe there is somebody else. I'd love to meet him.
And the sabotage, the subterfuge that's being used here, this is so stupid, because the proof is in the pudding. Look at all the jobs that say career incumbent. Look at all the blank spaces. Look at the fact that some of these people show up in one place and then they continue under the job under titles that don't actually fit them. And so they can use whatever title they want, any way they want. But here is how stupid it is. Because once you told me all this, I'm going, okay, now I'm really confused, because I always thought that everyone in the plum book is SES. They're not part of the OPM's civil service, the Office of Personnel Management, civil service, and those pay grades of General Schedule GS1 through GS15, and then the GS 16, 17, 18. So you said to me, well, of course, everyone in here is SES. They make it look like they're not. They are so trying hard to lie and just hide it in front of your eyes. It would drive anyone insane to try to figure it out. When I first got a hold of those, I looked at them, I tried to figure it out. I could see that it was just confusion. I could see it looked like some kind of strange cryptology going on here that was just lawyer cryptology. And then when you looked at them and you had all these people analyze them, and now after all this time you've been digging into this, you stand back and really it's just a giant lie.
Yes.
Every part of it.
This is the worst fraud I've ever read.
And you've read a lot of fraud. So, I mean, that's shocking. And that it can go on and no one knows about it. And that you say, wait a second, why would Jeff Sessions be in the plum book in 1984? Well, folks, here's the way that it works. In the government, you can have, for instance, in Michigan, you can be a 2-term Republican, a 2-term congressman, and have a retirement with the same amount that you are making at the end for the rest of your life, along with all the benefits. Then you can go to the Senate for 1 term, and then you get a retirement from that. Then you can come back and be any job in your county, and you can have 4 and 5 retirements from the government. That's what this is probably hiding. These people have multiple streams of income from the government. And we know it's not just the government. We know that they take people without, like, shall I say it? Dinesh D'Souza? Is that how you say his name? He was a couple years out of college. He wasn't even a citizen, and he's working as an SES member, working for in the White House for the president, or he's probably working for Bush. But think of that. And then what's he doing now? Or think of the fact that there's certain people whose name I'm not going to say, but there are people in the alternative news who worked for the government. Check their name. When they change their name, it's probably because they're SES, and we've already checked some of these people out. We're not going to bust them today. But the point is that we can just simply look these people up. We can tell who they are. And then when you see the positions they're in, you realize that they're more powerful than any presidential appointment, and that they have the ability to slow walk anything. And
let me point out one of those. Let me stop you and point out one of those, talking about slow walking, because he's very prominent. Remember how much stonewalling the State Department did during the Benghazi hearings?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the man driving that, his name is Patrick F. Kennedy, and he's SES from the 1980 Plum Book.
Exactly. Just about any how about the new guy that Sessions has appointed? What's his name? Jonathan Huber? SES. How many times did Sessions tell us he was getting someone from outside of the D.C. swamp? Wrong. He hired another SES member who he was already in control of to begin with.
Here's another one that surprised me. I guess I don't know why I'm surprised anymore. Elaine Chao. She's listed at least 2 or 3 times. I believe that she is the wife of Senator McConnell.
Oh, Lordy,
and
she's the one in the new book, Empires, yeah.
The transportation secretary.
Couldn't be more corrupt. It's in the new book by Peter Schweizer. Yes.
Well, she's multiple times.
And that could mean multiple continuing retirement streams of money with beautiful, beautiful payroll benefits. One single award can get you 35% of your base pay increased, and we don't know if it's for 1 year or permanently. That's a very nice bonus.
A couple more, Ken Starr and John Roberts Jr.
Oh, yes. Oh, and please go ahead and just blow their mind. You just said a Supreme Court justice is SES. Now think about that. How did that happen? How could that happen? Were they recognized as SES before they took the job, or were they such highfalutin hoobaboos that when they took the job they demanded, so they were already part of the shadow government before they were elected to the Supreme Court? That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, the Roberts and Starr are in the 92 Plum Book.
And I think Scalia and, there was a couple others. So what we're talking about is there is no part of the federal government that this does not affect. Even senators, even representatives, they may, before they even took their job, had a payroll arrangement with we're not even sure who. But because they go through the indoctrination, which is very much an MK Ultra testing, psychological as well as indoctrination, it's only it's a very short course, which tells me that it has to be this. Because why? It's taught anywhere. Anyone can teach it. Even the Clinton Executive Institute, taught out of the Google headquarters in New York, teaches the indoctrination. They probably just show a few films laced with lots of subliminal CIA, MK Ultra programming. This is nothing new. This is very standard. And if you've ever been in if you've ever been in the NSA or other services like that, you'll know what I'm talking about. You get shown a film, and all of a sudden what you used to believe you don't believe anymore when the film's over. Well, these people are turned into corporate elitists who get an elite pay scale. And all they have to do is answer their text messages when they are told what to do, what the new program is, or when they get a private message. And you see this happen all the time. Judges, Judge Chutnick, Judge Leon, Judge Contreras, all these people. Look, check them out. They're probably SES. Why do you know that? Because they are oftentimes recused, as we've seen, from above. And no one says, well, why didn't they recuse themselves before? But from above, someone sweeps in and recuses them from a case which is, national attention is on, and then now John Podesta and Hillary Clinton's payments to Fusion GPS through Mark Elias are all hidden now, aren't they, Judge Leon? So what we see is this is the mechanism for what people call the deep state. And if you want to kill the deep state, you just simply use the Holman Act that Trump has enacted both this year and last year for the budget, and you pay these worthless federal obstructionists, these collusionists, these people who should have nothing to do with the decisions they're making. You pay them $1, as is perfectly legal, and you watch the lawyers run away. You pay those 500, we call it the Council of 500, those lawyers, DOJ lawyers, who give the ultimate monies to these people and make the ultimate decisions. You pay them $1 a year. And then next year you pay them another $1 a year, because they might not go away because they control everything, and the whole thing would collapse if they did go away. Or Trump could simply say, no, we don't need that final review board. Because these things, as you point out, Michael, are oftentimes administrative decisions inside of agencies that nobody even knows these decisions are made. They never come to light, and they have complete legal authority to make these decisions. For instance, we just discovered in the handbook of the SES for 2017 that they went from 56 agencies they control, now 75 agencies. So in 1 year, that's what that executive order of Barack Obama's was basically directing, that SES needs to get bigger. It needs to be consistently only Obamaites, Obama appointees, Obama holdovers, and that it needs to be more pervasive than ever. This is part of what was about to happen to our country. In other words, the Judas kiss of the traitorous activity of the SES and this shadow government that is right in front of our eyes, but still obscured in documents that they try to say are public, which aren't public, because you can't access them and you can't get the information to find out even how much these people are being paid, let alone their awards, their payroll benefits, how many streams of income they have, and how they got their appointment to begin with in many cases. And do they yet have a top secret security clearance, seeing they're working in sensitive areas, seeing that they can waive that? Do they have to be an American citizen? No, not as an SES member. You could easily be dual citizen or not even an American citizen. You don't have to answer any questions. You don't have to. You are basically waived through anything that the person appointing you wishes to waive you through. But when Trump tries to do that with his own family, he can't even get security clearances for his own family. And his appointees, 39 of the judges are waiting to be appointed. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are waiting to take their jobs that are being held up by SES members, by members of Congress. And who is in charge? Not Trump and his team. Trump doesn't have a team in place. SES members are in charge. That's the reality.
Well, here's what I'm going to pray this weekend as we celebrate Easter. I'm going to pray, and excuse me for getting a little emotional here, but I'm going to pray that the light of Christ will shine in this darkness, and we'll see a resurrection.
Amen. That is the hope. And when we say Christ, for me, that means the higher self in every person. And that means even evil people can still, at this moment, turn to their higher self, to the higher divine self that's in them. And so, Michael, I underscore what you say. And yes, we're Christians, and we're not afraid to say it. And those people who are trying to to slam me for being a Christian, well, look, I can't be slammed for being a Christian. I'm proud of being a Christian. But I also believe in all other religions. I believe there's that golden thread, that the golden rule is found in all valid religions. And that's what Michael is, I think, telling us right now. Even though we are looking evil in the face, and he has just spent weeks and weeks and weeks looking evil in the face, what we're saying is love is the thing that can conquer this, no matter how crazy that sounds to you.
That's right.
Thank you, Michael, for being with us today. We're going to keep on the case of SES. We're never going to let this go, and we're going to keep bringing it to the light, because it's that light that you were just referring to that can dispel all darkness. So thanks again for being with us.
You're welcome. We love you guys.
I love you too. Bye-bye.